person, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am making the beef stew from Laputa's Castle in the Sky. Laputa? Yeah. So actually the recipe that I'm using, I'm making for the very first time today. It's actually this recipe. I found this recipe in an old album of recipes, and according to the person who had this last, it is very good. So I'm not sure if I have all of the ingredients. I can tell already now that I don't have a few of them, but I have the most important one, which is red wine. My blinds are open right now, so whoever saw that from a balcony across the way probably thought that it looked really great. I'm also supposed to make this in a Dutch oven pan, but I don't have one of those. So I'm just gonna get a heavy bottomed pot and hope for the best. So let's go find the things. Okay, so these are the ingredients that I could find in my pantry. And I'm missing a few key ingredients, but we're just gonna have to deal with that. So this recipe calls for flour, salt, pepper, paprika, some stewing beef cut into chunks, 3 cloves of garlic, which I've reduced to 2 thin cloves of garlic. Then we have 2 onions, which I'll basically just do 1 and cut this guy into chunks because he's ginormica. We have some oil for browning, which I'll get out later. Half a cup of red wine, which I reduced to 1/4 of a cup. A 28-ounce can of tomatoes. I don't have a can of tomatoes, and later in the recipe, it basically says that you have to puree the tomatoes at some point, so I'm just gonna use the tomatoes that I have in my refrigerator and puree them. I don't know how many tomatoes will make 28 ounces, which according to this measuring cup here is more than the capacity of this measuring cup, but since I'm cutting that in half, then that would be 14 ounces, which is roughly 410-ish milliliters. So yeah, I'm gonna do it to, there's like a line, which is right there. So I'm gonna do it to there, almost to the top. Next, salt and pepper to taste. It says 1 teaspoon of basil and 1 teaspoon of oregano. I didn't reduce any of the oregano, basil, and paprika measurements because if I did, it'd be basically like a sneeze of each thing, and that's like negligible. So I kept it at 1 teaspoon, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, which is here. Sorry. 4 carrots, which I've reduced to 1 1/4 carrots because I'm not making the entire recipe, and I just figured, hey, if I'm gonna eat this between me and another person, I could probably only eat like half a carrot. So we're gonna go with 1 1/4. And then it asks for 4 potatoes, and I'm only using 1 1/2, and these ones are roughly like the size of my hand, so I don't know if that helps, but 1 1/2 potatoes. Or in reality, it's however much you think you can eat. If it's like, oh man, I really don't like potatoes, then don't put all those potatoes in, because you know, why eat something you don't like? But always give it a try first. Then it asks for a 10-ounce package of frozen peas and a 10-ounce can of whole mushrooms, and I don't have either of those, so I'm not going to put them in. And I don't have a bay leaf, which I'm really sad and disappointed about, because I know the recipe's not gonna be the same, but we're just gonna have to forget that somehow. Cheers! Ooh, that's nice. Okay, so I'm gonna clean this table up, and we're gonna start chopping stuff, and mixing stuff, and cooking stuff. So the first thing you're going to do is combine the flour, salt, pepper, and paprika in a plastic bag. Then set it aside while you mince the garlic and dice the onion. Add a little bit of oil to your pan, and then saute the onion and garlic for about 30 to 45 seconds until they become a little bit fragrant and a little bit cooked. Next, take your flour bag and add pieces of meat to it. Shake it around a bit, and then add the meat to the pan. You can add oil as needed here. If this is your first time using an induction heater, like it was my first time using an induction heater, I would suggest that every time you add and take away meat, that you clean the pan in between each use. The induction heater, I find, it heats up really quickly and it tends to get burnt really fast, so I just kind of wiped off the bottom and then added more butter, because you do want a little bit of brown on the bottom so you can make a nice flavorful sauce. When you're done browning the meat, add it back to the pan with some butter and the garlic and onion from earlier. Next, add the pureed tomato, some pepper. At this point, you can also season it with more salt if you need to. Mix it around, and then cook for about 2.5 hours. I ended up having to move back to the stovetop because I couldn't use the induction heater very well. So it's all good. You know, you do you, man.
So after about 2.5 hours of cooking, the beef was super tender and really soft and delicious. And then I added the potatoes and carrots and cooked them until they were soft. Lastly, I added a tablespoon of butter just to add a little bit more creaminess. And that was it. This is a great recipe for the winter time with the coming season. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I totally have a cold while I'm narrating this, so I could probably go for some of this stew right now. I hope that you like this recipe and that you're liking these recipes so far. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel to see more from the A to Z Ghibli Food series. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.